Those of you that are tuning in or people that are going to catch this on YouTube or wherever you're at, welcome to episode 26 of the Waking Up From Work podcast. Today, I am joined by Nicholas Devlin. Do you go by Nick Devlin or Nicholas Devlin?
Nick, typically. Yeah.
Nick Devlin. All right. I'm being all official to invite him in. So it's like the grand red carpet into the Waking Up From Work podcast, right?
That's it. Yeah.
So Nick, I got in contact from Pete with the great Jesse Harless circle that we talk about so much on this show, because we seem to have connected with pretty much everyone in that circle. I'm sure that more will come out of the woodwork now because they're a good crew of people. But Nick has a pretty vast background, basically, when you're reading his bio of like the trajectory of where life's taken him so far. And so for the most part, at this time, Nick is a life coach, and he has gone through ups and downs. He's a military guy. You're a Marine, right?
No, Army Ranger.
Army Ranger for 4 combat seasons.
Yep. Four deployments. Yep.
So definitely want to dig into that, because I think the only other vet I've had on here would be John Young from Pipe Dream Brewery, who is a solid ass dude too.
Cool.
But thank you for your service, man.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Thank you for making it so I can just do a podcast in my bedroom and not be out there fighting. So, I like to go to the gun range, but I like to be at the gun range and just not be on the receiving end of anything else. I like to just do my thing,
Yeah, I hear you.
But Nick, you want to just run me and my audience through your background, because I'm sure that you're going to kind of color the things that are most important to you throughout the process, and some of the things that have kind of brought you to where you are, because it looks like, you've moved a ton. You've gone through life changes. You've gone through this military piece. You've gone through, you noted failure as an entrepreneur. You're back up and running. You're hitting it really hard right now. And there's a lot that I think people could benefit from all those differences that are molding where you're at right now. So you want to just run people through, like, who's Nick Devlin and what made you, or what are you up to?
Yeah. I'll start kind of high level, and then you can direct where we want to dig in a little bit more to avoid going too off the rails. But
cool.
Yeah. So, I grew up in Massachusetts on Cape Cod to a working class family. And ended up going to technical high school. This was kind of very young. I wanted to be useful. I wanted to learn practical knowledge. And, for me, that looked like in high school, in my freshman year, really, I decided I wanted to go to a technical high school because I wanted to learn skills that I felt like I could actually use in the real world.
Perfect.
I wasn't sure at that point that I wanted to go to college or anything like that, right? So I knew I wanted to be able to make a living, do something useful. So went to a technical high school and studied automotive technology. And then around my senior year, I decided I did want to consider college. And because I was doing that, I thought, well, engineering kind of makes sense. I like taking stuff apart and trying to put it back together again. And I like working with my hands and mechanical things. So I ended up going to college in Boston at Wentworth Institute of Technology for mechanical engineering. And, that was, I enjoyed it. It wasn't awesome. Right. But, after graduating there, I went to work, various jobs around Boston. This is where I started to kind of wander, right? I was not really being intentional about my life. I was just kind of following, the logical steps, what seemed like logical steps to me at the time.
Right.
Which led to, working for a couple of years for a job and then moving on to another job. And when I was about 22 years old, I picked up and I moved to California. It was just like, I was fed up with just working these.
I'm out of here.
I'm out of it. Yeah, exactly. Some friends were moving there, and I kind of jumped on last minute. It's like, yeah, I'll move there with you.
Yeah.
Not really a great plan in place, but I just felt like I had to take some kind of action. And that was a very good learning experience for me. Lasted about 4 months out in LA, and flew back to the East Coast, really kind of hit rock bottom and had to rebuild from there.
That's a very hard city to just like appear in. LA
Very,
is not an easy city to just boom, I'm good to go.
yeah, exactly. And I showed up
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm going to be a rock star or something, right? I'll be fine.
Yeah.
Didn't work out.
I
Surprise,
like the
surprise.
optimism.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
I'm gonna be a rock star.
I'm
I like the optimism. You should keep
yeah,
that part, but then like
exactly. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Maybe like tamper that with a little bit of reality, or at least a plan going into it.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
came back and ended up uh, jumping into another job, and really this was kind of the pattern um, up until about 2008, and that's when I decided to join the military. And this was a decision. So I was 28 years old, um, and I look at my life now. I look back. I'm 41 now, and I look back and there's a couple different turning points in my life that really put me on a different path. And that was one of those points in my life where I made a decision to do something bigger than myself, right? To be part of something. I definitely had this sense of duty or calling. I had grown up, my grandfather had been in World War II. Right? He was a First Division Marine in Pacific Theater. Some of my dad's friends were Vietnam vets, Korea vets. So, I always kind of admired that. I was the kid that was, going out in the woods and playing army with my buddies, right? And just
Oh yeah.
imagination going wild, right? So that was my happy place back then. And all this kind of led to this point when I was 28 years old, where I realized, I was just kind of going through the motions in my life. I really wanted to do something bigger. And so I looked at the military, and, that was kind of an interesting path to actually get in, but we'll save that for later. I joined the Army in 2008, in January 2008, and I joined with a Ranger contract, which basically meant that assuming I made it through every step of the selection, I had a shot at being in Ranger Battalion. So for those that don't know, 75th Ranger Regiment is one of the most hardcore infantry units out there, right? They're special operations.
Oh yeah.
And so joining in 2008, 75th Ranger Regiment meant I was going to war, right? That was
100%.
U.S. was at war in the Middle East, very, very active. And so that was a big decision. But for me, that's what I had to do at that time, right? I just wanted to do the most hardcore thing I could think of. I knew that I needed to have like a reset in my life and be part of something bigger. So I opted for that.
That's definitely it.
That's it.
That's definitely the way to do it.
That'll do it. Yeah.
That's a little hardcore.
So got out of the military after 4 years, and there's a lot in that 4 years that I'm sure we'll get into, but the biggest takeaway for me was that I had this realization through that experience that I could do more, right? I had a newfound confidence in my own capacity for life, for adventure, for leadership. And so I knew that I didn't want to just go back into my old engineering life and jump right back into the going through the motions thing, right? So that said, I did kind of go back into that just because it was a good fallback, right? It was I could make a decent income. And at this point, I now had an infant son. I was married, so I had a lot of responsibilities. That was kind of weighing on me.
Oh yeah.
And so I went back into engineering, but I started to steer my career more towards leadership, still with an eye in the corporate world. I started to think about going for an MBA. And ultimately, after a couple of years, that's what I did. So then I applied to MBA programs, and kind of in the same vein, I've always been bold. I've always been ambitious, and always kind of had the approach of why the hell not, right? Let me try, shoot for the moon and see what happens.
Yep.
And so that was kind of my approach with Ranger Regiment, trying to get to this very selective group of individuals in the military. That worked out. when I was looking at MBA programs, I applied to Cornell. That was one of them, right? So I was looking at that Ivy League level. And again, remembering my background, right, is middle-class family. We didn't have a ton of money. Nobody in my family was college educated. Um, and so to go for this is a big deal, right? That's shooting way above my league, and ended up getting accepted. So so attended Cornell 2 years, got my MBA there, and then again, just kind of, I'm still following that same pattern though, right? Of not being intentional, not listening to my real heart's desire. I'm kind of just looking at, well, maybe I should do this now. It's always this, well, I just did that, so this is the next logical step.
Yep.
So when I was finishing up my MBA, I thought, well, now I have my MBA, I guess I have to get into management. And that was kind of my aim all along, just with the blinders on. So I took a job in New Jersey as a manager for a big medical device company. And we packed up the family, because we were living in New Hampshire at that time. We packed up the family, moved everybody to New Jersey, to a town right outside Manhattan. Very, very different culture down there.
Entirely.
And this was an incredible experience. This was a really good experience. So I talked about the experience in LA, right, which kind of humbled me and maybe rethink some things. And that I look at that experience as one of my first failures of, once I was out on my own.
Right. LA is like, hey, you're going to come in here, I'm going to smack you down. Like LA hits you. You're like, damn, I don't have money. I don't have a way to survive here. This place is a jungle.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
Bring up all the experience, and then you hit Manhattan.
Yeah. Yeah. So
different, entirely different city.
Different city. And, this is a good 15, 20 years of time have passed. Right.
Right.
And so I'm a different person, right? I'm totally different reality and environment, but still some similar themes in that this was a great learning experience, and I say that kind of tongue in cheek because it wasn't necessarily enjoyable learning. Right. We lived there for about a year, almost a year exactly. The job was great. By all appearances, it was a great company. I had a great manager. I was leading a great team. I was working a lot, and I was so focused on career, and I think it was a lot of fear, wrapped up in that, hey, I just moved my whole family. I have to make this work.
I gotta go.
I just invested all this money into an MBA. Like, I have to do this, and it has to work. And that's, my biggest challenge is control, right? So I say that's my addiction, right? Is control.
Okay.
And I was white knuckling life to death during that time in New Jersey.
It's got to be this way.
It has to be this way. It's gonna work. Like, don't even talk to me. It's gonna work.
Yeah.
And as the universe often does, had different plans and has a way of bringing you to heal. And my home life was crap. My marriage was on the rocks. I was unhappy, right? I was unhealthy. I mean, I look back at pictures now, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see it at the time because I was so just determined and trying to control things, but everything was going to shit.
Yeah.
And I was fortunate to connect with a really good friend of mine who asked the right question at the right time, and it completely flipped my world upside down.
What was the question?
The question was, do you want to stay married to Camilla? Right. And it's a simple question, right? And it was the content, it fit the context of the conversation, but it hit me. I mean, it just hit me like a rock, right?
That's a real question.
That's
not a fake question.
No.
You're like, I don't know, there's other ways to hint at that ask, right?
Yeah.
Someone, but that is a real question. And you're like,
Yeah.
damn, if you weren't ready for the question, if you weren't expecting that was coming, that's the wall. I mean, you hit that with a
Yeah.
car and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're here. This is where we're
Yeah.
at.
I literally cried, man. He asked
I
me that
would too.
question and I cried. And
100%.
I didn't answer. And I basically said, I'm going to think about that. I said, thank you for asking that. I'm going to give that question the its due.
Yeah.
And so I really did. I sat with that, and we had this was during a visit back to New Hampshire, and I was staying with my wife's grandmother, the whole family, right? All of us were staying there. So, it was an interesting setting to sit with this question where I was
What year was that at this point? That's
this is last year. Yeah,
now you're back in New Hampshire, and that's when
now we're back in New Hampshire. No. So we were visiting, right? So we're still living in New Jersey.
Okay.
Came back to visit, and I went and spent time with my friend, and that's when he hit me. Yeah. So sitting with this question now, I had to go back, and spend time with my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
At her grandmother's house, and then we were going to pick up and drive back to New Jersey. And ultimately, I don't want to leave this cliffhanger too long.
I know I'm brewing, dude, and our one listener's freaking out. Like,
I know.
Wait, real quick. Hold on. I'm going to invite you back in because I lost you on Instagram.
Yeah. Looks like, okay.
Because people can't hear you.
Oh, bummer.
And actually,
is it coming back in?
I just invited you.
Go live. All right.
Yep. And then I did hear some feedback earlier while we're at it.
Okay.
From me. I don't know if there's still any volume left. Check. I'm hearing me a little bit. I just didn't want to break your stride before.
Yep. That's all good. All right. Got the volume down as low as it'll go on.
Hey.
Got anything?
That's pretty good. Yeah, I can get that out.
Okay.
All right. Cliffhanger.
All right. Yeah.
Cliffhanger.
Right. You want to go to commercial break here?
Yeah, I know. I need to play like some jazz music or something.
So, I answered the question, yes, right. That I absolutely did want to stay married to her. But again, just really appreciated that question, right? Because like you said, this is a real question. And this is where there's so much opportunity for most people is these questions aren't asked.
Always.
Right.
Never really.
They just don't even ask the question. And it's incredible what can happen when you ask a question. Yes. And it's a real question and it's provocative and it's, from the heart. You could change the world, right? In one conversation.
So we had an episode that I brought my wife onto the show to talk about like going after goals as a couple, because I really believe like if you're doing life coach and like I've now in episode 26, I've already gotten to interview and talk with a lot of people in this journey in completely different fields that have nothing to do with each other, like all over the place. Yeah. And this is a thing that just this type of person seems to face. Like, I don't know when in the career, it could be different times in the career. It can be in different ways that these couples face it. But like, if you are the type of person where you're really going against the grain, or you're trying to do something that's not a traditional work style, or you're trying to do something where you're creating something and it's not like a normal infrastructure, and normal in the sense that if you do the thing, you get the thing, right?
Right.
Is you got to watch that shit like a hawk. Like in that episode, I talk about, between my wife and I, she's pursuing veterinarian. She wants to open her own vet practice. If you haven't followed some of the background that I have, Nick, is I work full time. Me and you are super in line with where we're at in life, because I'm side hustling with the attempt to create something to just really do exactly what I want to do every single day, all in, right?
Yeah.
Inside there, the amount of hustle that is required to do that is no joke, where like, a lot has changed where my wife now and I don't live with each other because she had to go to vet school. So I'm able to sit in my pit of work and I'm not affecting someone else, right? But I'm still working the same way that I did when I was with her, when I'm doing 7 days a week. I'm staying up till 2 a.m. random nights. I'm just in it. And there's never been a point where it's been a scare for me, but there have been points where my wife's put me in check to say, we're cool. I know you're chasing things. I know that you're just a really active person. I want you to know that tonight you did something where if you do that for the rest of our lives together, that's a fucking problem. That right there, you need to understand will be an issue. So it was never to any point, like, we've never been to that point, and I'm lucky and happy as hell. Like, I've been with her for 10 years, married for 3. Yeah. And it's exciting to never have an issue like that. But there were moments that, like, it wasn't the same question that you were asked, but it to me, if I could imagine what that was, that's what it felt like, where, like, I'm just doing shit. Just like you're saying, you're in it. You don't know. You're in it. And you're like, I guess, like, from the outside, what you're doing in life or what you're doing on a daily basis, that is not normal. It's not normal for you to work from 6 a.m. till 2 a.m. That's not normal. It's not normal to eat a granola bar on the ride, do a call on that, schedule something for, like, none of it's normal. To you, it gets normal when you do it every day.
Right.
Something you do every single day becomes normal real quick. And if people don't check you like that, and thank God she did, because it made it so that times when I'm hanging out with her, I drop my phone. Like, I do not touch that phone. I do not answer emails. Just like when you're talking about coming back into control, those emails, like, and this is why I love all the Tim Ferriss shit when I'm talking 4-hour work week. If you check out any of that, he's all in on just like, I answer emails. I ran this company. Like, I answer emails once a week, and people know that I answer them at 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. I don't answer them any other times. And if I can do it running a company with every vendor and every person in the world, then anyone can do it. And it's like, we make these decisions of prioritization in our time, and the sense of urgency for social, or the sense of urgency for each task and things like that. And every once in a while, like, just like you're saying, like, life rebalances, and people hopefully help rebalance you, where if you can't say it, stuff like that, that hit me hard enough where, like, I am still an insanely active person. I still have the schedule I do, but, like, when times are designated for stuff, or when I realize that I'm not being forward with how I'm scheduling things to do what I need to do with my wife, shit stops. I'm not booking shit. I'm not completing that project. I'm not answering that email. I'm not doing that thing, because at the end of the day, it's like, it's not fun to do even the thing that is your dream in life, what you want to do in your entire life. You've been trying your whole life to achieve it. You can achieve it. And if you are not with someone and you don't want to be perfect, and you feel that, and that's cool. If you're with someone and you know that that is the person you are supposed to spend your life with, you are literally supposed to be with that person, like symbiote, like, if you do something to ruin that, then you can live the rest of your life doing the thing that you want to do for the rest of your life. And if you don't have that person to share it with, you lost it. You absolutely lost it. And I thought about that real hard when I got checked like that. And that was a question where I feel you, man. Like, I've literally lived that wall question where you're like, damn, it feels like you're driving the car and the deer jumped out and you just freezed it. And you're like, whoa, all right. And like, it's over and you're cool. And you're like, no, I'm cool. Like, I'm healthy right now. Like, I'm still cool. You look at the other person, like, I'm cool. And it's still, you still stay parked in the road for a little bit, because you're like, I need to make sure that I am really cool and alive. I drive again. That's how hard it hit. So
absolutely.
Super side tangent, but I wanted you to know, like, I get it, man. Like, that blows you away. That's a big,
it does.
It's a big check.
And it's a gift, right? Because if he hadn't been courageous enough, right, or vulnerable enough to ask that question, you know, because somebody might take offense, right, or whatever. Absolutely. If he hadn't been bold enough to ask that question, you know, who knows? I'd probably still be on that track, and you know, I don't know.
Or if you weren't strong enough to be able to take the question, right? Because even, like, they had to be bold enough to say it, and you have to be strong enough to not take it and then immediately defend. You took it and you're like, okay, I'm going to think about life right now.
Right.
You didn't attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
hard too.
Yep. So continuing, I guess the story, the long version of the short version,
Yeah.
that led to a pretty rapid reassessment of where I was at. Once I answered that question, yes, it was like, okay, well, if the answer is yes, obviously things have to change.
Right.
And, it led to a lot of heart-to-heart talks with my wife. It very quickly led to some pretty, intense talks with my manager, who when I had been hired by one manager. In about 6 months of working there, he got promoted and moved out of state for the new gig. A new manager started. So now this new manager has me as a direct report for a few months, and then I come to him with this, right? So, I've been with the company for like 8 months, maybe, this new manager for a couple months, and he and we got along, but there was some adjustment, right, that was happening, kind of feeling each other out.
Yep.
And I came to him and I said, I'm not going to be here next year. And he's like, what?
Welcome. Yeah.
I'm like, and it was intense how I started living really intentional. Once I started to get clarity on, okay, this isn't working and this is what I truly desire, right? So this life isn't working right now the way it's set up. I desire to stay married. I desire to be an engaged father. I desire to have a life that I enjoy. I started to act boldly but with confidence, right? I just felt like I was making the right calls now. I didn't have much spirituality at the time, but, I started to get little nudges that maybe there was more to it than just my plan, right? Again, coming back to the control. And this is where my illusion of being in control started to break down. So I had the conversation with my manager without any plan, right? I was just like, hey, I'm not going to be here. He could have fired me, right? I don't know. I just knew that this was the right thing to do, was just to come clean, and that the universe would kind of start to put the pieces into place to make it happen, because I was living intentionally and genuinely and from a place of love and, truth. And so he took it very well, right? After he got over his initial shock, he was like, okay, I explained everything. I was just an open book. And he and the HR department and everybody else that was involved in that transition from that company was fantastic, right? They were just, it was like this door was opened, and things that could have turned out horribly were just starting to fall into place. And they obviously had to start looking for my replacement.
Yep.
Everything was very amicable, right? Once they found the person who was going to take my role, I agreed to stay on to train them. And there was a good, maybe a month overlap there. When I left, I had accepted a sign-on, like a reload package, to go down there.
Yeah.
So it was significant. It was like $10,000, right? So, and if you left within a year, you had to pay it back.
Gotcha.
I was leaving after like 11 and a half months, right? So there was a possibility that I was going to have to pay this back.
Yeah.
But because I had approached it in such a pure manner and agreed to stay on and help train and all this, they happily just waived that, right? Awesome. They're like, you know what, close enough. You've been a good employee. Sad to see you go, all that kind of stuff. So it was actually this like really incredible experience that could have totally blown my life up, but it was just smooth, right? It was just easy. And life just continued like that. So that was about a year ago. No, I'm sorry. That was last November is when we moved up here. So, once we got up here, we found a house, right? Like the house that we wanted came on the market, and 2 days later we put an offer on it. So it was on the market for 2 days. We went up, we saw it, we put an offer on it. They accepted it. Like, boom, we had a house.
There we go.
Right? Yep. Great. You got a house. I had a job lined up, like very quickly, had a job that came through. And, at that point I wasn't, I was just trying to get a job, right? So that we could afford to move and live.
Yeah.
And so just kind of going for anything and hoping that it was going to work out and be something I could tolerate for a while. Um,
Yep.
and it was great. They brought me on. It was a good deal to come on. It was actually a bump in salary. And, for those of you that know anything about Jersey versus New Hampshire, it was a bump in salary. And
That's not the norm.
That's not the norm, because the cost of living is so much lower in New Hampshire. So it was really actually, a pretty significant bump in salary. And the title was great, all this stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
So I started working pretty much right away. We're in a home. We're closer to family. We all, my wife and I both took a huge, just sigh of relief coming up here, right? Just like, okay.
Landed.
Yeah, we're landed. This is better. We don't know really what's going to happen at this point, right, with our lives exactly, but we know that we're on the right track.
Cool.
And I actually left that job after about a month. I think it was about a month. It got really interesting. I'm telling you, it got really interesting. We moved up here. Things started to fall into place. But then there was all this shifting and stormy seas, right? This job, it was great. Oh, awesome. Got a job. I can afford to live up here and we can take a deep breath and all that. And then I realized very quickly that it was not where I wanted to be, right? It was just an awful, awful culture there. It just was not a good fit, And so I was like, oh, this isn't, but then out of the blue, another company calls me, and it was a company that I had interviewed with on trying to come up here from New Jersey. But they just kind of dragged their feet, and the other company came through with an offer, so I went there. But this other company called me back and said, hey, we're still interested in you. We realize that you have a job and you're probably moving on to better pastures, but if you're interested, we'd still like to talk to you.
Sure.
I'm like, yeah, you guys were my first choice coming up here. So sure, I'll talk to you. And ended up going through that whole process, and they made me an offer that was a bump in salary from the job that I was at, right? So I just keep it's like the universe is just throwing money, throwing good stuff at me.
Cool.
Once I finally started to let go, right? I finally started to let go of control and just say, all right, here's the end result. I want to stay married. I want to be a good father. I want to live the life I want. I don't even really know exactly what that life looks like, but I know that I'm done holding the reins, right?
Yep.
And all this incredible stuff started happening. So then I start this new job, and after about a month, corporate comes in and says, we're shutting down this location. And so pretty much everybody's getting laid off. Right. So at this point, I've been to a goal setting exercise at Pete's shop with Jesse and all those guys. And I've started to really get intentional about my life. Right. Okay. So, it has a very different feel from control, because it's intentions, right? It's focused on.
It's like an archer, you are focused on something, so you're continually doing things to go towards that. And there's other stuff happening. There's someone throwing something in front of your face, or there's an arrow that's bad when you're putting it, it's just lopsided because it's been bent, or the wind's picking up, but you're focused on just the bullseye and you're moving towards it instead of being this is the bullseye, and then you start trying to control the air, and you start trying to make it so that there's not other people around to throw things, and you're trying to make sure that every single thing, instead of doing that, you're just focused and you're just moving towards the goal.
Yeah.
There might be other things that are affecting it in positive and negative ways, but you're just focused on that goal.
Right.
You'll try to coordinate it.
Yeah.
I'm with you, dude, that there's such a difference in the way that feels.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was almost the opposite before, right? I was controlling the day-to-day without any intention of where I wanted to end up, without any bigger goal, right? Or bigger dream. It was just hey, I just, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be a manager, and I'm going to whatever. Right.
Right.
And yeah, it's just not effective. So, I started to get intentional, set these goals, and I had some goals around I want to invest in real estate this year. Spend more time with family, travel. These are, they're okay goals, right? And it's good to have goals. I think you're in like, the top like few percent of people everywhere, if you even have goals or setting them and trying to pursue these, right?
Yep.
But they're also not super inspiring goals. When that layoff came through, or the announcement that they were going to shut down that location, it was a little bit jarring, but it wasn't scary for me. I mean, I
can survive. I've survived four times out for war. I've survived like all these moves. I've survived all these job changes. I've somehow just crawled out of a rock and survived. So
exactly. So I mean, I literally just laughed. I was like, okay, sure, of course, right?
It's like a soap opera. Someone's watching. Someone's paying to.
Well, and I think there is something to when you start to get intentional in your life and you start to have some bigger dreams and go for it. I do think that the universe tests you. Right? I think you start to get like, oh, okay, do you really want this? How committed are you?
Definitely.
And for me, right, very, very like kind of zooming in on my case where the big issue is control. Was like, okay, I'm going to let go of control, right? And I picture the universe going like, okay, you're going to let go of control. Let's test this, right? Like, what happens if, okay, we're going to, here's a round of layoffs.
It's like Jumanji. And it's like the that you move. All right, now the giant spiders are coming out, and you're like, all right.
Yeah, like, are you going to freak out and go back into control mode? Or are you going to continue to put that faith out there, right? And and it was cool. So it was a great opportunity to to lean into faith. And
so what happens?
So it ends up that I'm not in the round of layoffs, and there's been like 3 or 4 since then, but I actually am asked to stay on because I happen to be tied into a strategic project that they're going to keep on. And they offer me a retention bonus to stay on, which essentially means, hey, as long as you don't leave and go find another job before the product launches, then we're going to pay you a whole bunch of money when the product launches. I'm like, okay, sure. Right. Yeah, I guess I'll stay. So, like you alluded to before, I am working full time right now. But it's worked out again, like just like gifts from the universe, like boom, here, here's this job that it's not going to last forever. Right. But when this product launches, here's a whole bunch of money, presumably, right? I'm done predicting the future. It may or may not happen, even though they say it will, who knows? And that's fine, because ultimately what's going to happen is, I think you might've lost me on,
yeah, you're not a strong Instagram.
You know what it is I need to plug in. Is that cool? Is that a faux pas if I go grab a cord, plug in?
No, I'll edit out all right. I'll edit out our little powwow here.
All right, hang on.
Check out who's on live. Shrek Mix 921. What is up? 603 Real Estate. Alex, I'm meeting up with you in a week or two. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining us tonight. Oh, man. Sherman Gregory. That guy sucks. I cannot stand him. I would hate to do a music video with him on Saturday. That would be the worst. If that guy ever made music videos, he'd be the worst one at it. I was just razzing our viewers.
Nice.
While you went away, it's the perfect opportunity.
Gotta do that. How can I mute this volume? Because I think that's
your phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to. Is it an iPhone?
Yeah, it's an iPhone. I got volume. I pushed the volume all the way down, but it's still
on your left side. Did you do that toggle to mute it?
Yeah, toggle. The ringer's off. Silent.
And the volume down. Am I coming off your computer or something?
No, it's the phone.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Check, check, check. That's it, man. Whatever you just did is. Oh
So
no, come
I
back.
shut because I shut down Insta.
Weird. I've always been able to do it. When you're hitting volume right now, it's not turning down like a media volume or anything like that.
It's just doing it's just doing like the volume right on the phone.
If you go like top right on it, is there like, no, it's
like
only
a volume thing. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
Settings.
Check, check, check. Right now I'm good. Right now I hear nothing.
And is live up?
Live, you're, oh, it's buffering.
Yeah, that's because I swiped it. Pause because you weren't using the app.
Check. Yeah, I'm back in feedback mode.
Yeah, it's still there.
I don't know what's up, dude. I've never had this happen.
Oh. Yeah, the volume won't go off. It's weird.
Check, check. Check, check. Yeah.
It's coming through, right?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's just because it's coming up. The mic's picking it up. What if I turn? I probably don't want to mess with that. I don't know.
Hey, hey, hey. Check, check, check. Check, check, check. That's not bad if you did something different. I can't hear anything right now. Check, 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 check.
Is that better?
Yeah, dude. No, it's still a tiny bit, but it's not really bad.
So I flipped it around. I don't know if that'll screw up your editing, but just so that the microphone is facing the other way.
No, it's cool. I mean, this is just a live feed. People do see you upside down, but whatever.
Oh.
Whatever. All right. There we go. There, Sherman Gregory. You happy, buddy? Just kidding, man. You're a cool dude. You're such a good guy. All right. So you're still at your job. There's somewhat finite time because it's a product launch, but they're consistently doing layoffs and you're working there until this bonus time.
Yeah. So
that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. So as soon as they came through and said, we're shutting down this location, that was like a big wake up for me, right? I don't know, maybe it just takes a lot of times for me to hear it, but it really struck a chord that, what am I doing? Right?
Nothing is safe.
Nothing is safe.
Day job's not safe. Being an entrepreneur is not safe.
Right.
Being a small business is not safe. Nothing is guaranteed in this world.
Right. Exactly. And, it was a combination of me just becoming a lot more intentional, starting to set goals, being around, the circle of people that I was around now. And, which is a lot of entrepreneurs, a couple life coaches in there.
Cool.
Just people who are just really getting after it, and living intentional lives. And with this announcement, it was like, what am I doing? I've started to set some goals, but yeah, they're not that great. And at that goal setting event at Pete's shop, somebody else had mentioned, I want to be a life coach. That was their goal that they came out of that session with. And I don't know what it was, maybe it just had to sit in my subconscious for a while. But around the time of that announcement that they were going to shut down this location, I went, that's it. Like, that's what I want to do. And, I can't really explain it other than to say I had been doing a lot of work over the last year to clear out the clutter in my life, in my head, just really pursue clarity on what was important to me. And I remember that same friend who asked me that question that turned my life around, had said, at some point, if you put the effort in, he actually guided me through some of the 12 steps. And he said, at some point, you're going to get some kind of flash of inspiration, and I thought it was crazy. I was like, that would be awesome. Right.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I really believe you. Could it be that simple? Not easy, but simple. And that's the only thing I can think of is it just kind of hit me. It was this inspirational flash of, I have to do this. And as I started to look into that and lean into that, I realized that, yeah, all the times in my life where I was really pumped up, where I was in flow, where I was energized, for the most part, those were times when I was in a coaching situation, whether it was helping someone else, achieve something or just work through something in their lives, or whether it was myself being coached for one reason or another. Even in the military, right? Like that was one of my most enjoyable things was being a team leader and helping the younger guys through, just becoming a better ranger and,
Yep.
figuring out their own stuff in their lives. There was a lot of other stuff that I enjoyed too, just from like an excitement standpoint in that time of my life. But, really just overarching picture as a calling or something that I can do in this life and really make an impact and have a difference. It was all related to this coaching persona, I guess.
Okay.
So, very quickly after having that realization, I actually hired a coach, and I hired a life coach because I thought, well, if this is what I'm going to do and I'm going to tell people they should hire a coach, I should probably check it out, see what it's all about.
Absolutely.
And Pete actually recommended a couple different things to check out in that regard, and ended up going with one of the ones he recommended, and it's changed my life. Right? It just kind of accelerated everything. As soon as I started working with a coach, things started to fall into place even more. Right? So, so in a very short period of time, I went from just fully working a corporate job to the announcement that they were going to have a bunch of layoffs, and that even though I was staying on, it was a temporary role.
Right.
To getting super intentional about what I wanted, having this kind of flash of inspiration, and then really going for it, right? Pursuing it, taking action towards doing what I said I wanted to do.
Yep.
Very, very simple concepts, right? But again, most people don't do it, right? They don't ask those questions. If they even consider some kind of bigger dream that could pull them forward, they then don't take the steps towards it.
Discount it.
They discount it.
When people discount it, man. And I hate when I'm at the table when people are discounting each other, where they're like, oh, I like you're like, oh, you're a musician. And they're like, yeah, I basically am like the nastiest drummer in the world. And they're like, that's awesome. Like, what are you doing? And they're like, oh, well, I work this. I mean, like, I would love to do that, but like this, and you're like,
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
And then like dude, I'm ready to go when that person's like, yeah, I mean, what you're doing now is so much more reliable. You really need to be doing that. Like, thank God you didn't do the drums. I mean, that's ridiculous, right? And you're like, yeah, that's ridiculous. There's like a ridiculous amount of drummers that go to work full time drumming right now, but it's so
ridiculous. Yeah, that you could ever do.
Who's a disgusting drummer can't do that and needs to go sell insurance. And you're like,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
dude, I get fueled up.
Yeah.
You can do it, man. You can do it.
There's a ton of fear, that everybody lives with, and a lot
puts
of
on each other.
Oh yeah, of course.
Pushes back out there because they're scared too, and it sucks, man.
Yeah,
it sucks to breathe it in.
Yep, it does. But yeah, we could go on so many different tangents here, but yeah. So ultimately, I'm at the point now where I'm getting more comfortable with saying I'm a life coach, right? Where people ask, hey, what do you do? Right? I'm now very recently, my answer is I'm a coach, right? And instead of like answering it in a way that feels safer, right? Tied to what you just said, right? Where people are like, oh, but I do this, right? Don't worry, I'm a responsible adult. I have a job.
Yep.
Right? And I would answer it like, well, I work at this med device company, but I'm building a coaching practice, and that's what I'm really excited about.
Yep.
And now I'm finally saying I'm a coach.
Yes.
Because that's what I truly am.
Because imposter syndrome is gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
It's totally different to be like, what do you do? I work this job and I'm building this thing. when you might have been building that thing for like 3 or 4 years and you only need another 2 to be that thing all in, but you're
Yeah.
still saying it. There's a difference between that and you're like, I'm this thing.
Right.
Ask any of these ridiculous amount of people that I have helped to do that thing. Ask my portfolio of shit that I have been doing. Ask my wife who's seeing me do it every night. I'm that thing and I also do this thing.
Right.
These are my goals. And it's just a different way to talk about it. And it's just a way that, like, those people will believe you when you're talking business, but you have to say it in the way that you really mean that it's happening, or else they won't believe it. And then less people will think of you in that way. And then less people align with you on what you want done. Like throughout this podcast, man, like it's been like the same thing where like I'm redundantly saying what I want. I want to be an audio engineer full time, doing recordings out of a studio that I own myself. I want to do that every day and be able to make a living. I want to be able to make my own choices of what I do every day when I get up. I want to be able to be like a stay-at-home father someday. I want to be engaged with my wife. Like these are the things that I want, and I just say them. Anytime that someone asks me, I say the same thing, and I've been that way for the past 2 years. I didn't always do that.
Yeah.
Now I always say it. When you're talking about living with intent, I say the same shit every day when anyone asks me it, and they're very simple points of these are the things that I want, and I say them back to myself too when I'm in a run or I'm doing a cold shower or whatever I'm doing. I say the same things, and I believe that that's a part of you manifesting that to happen is by just being forward with like, these are the things that I want to do. I want nothing else in life but these 2 or 3 things that I'm saying. And when people hear that over and over and over again, every person, they're like, I know, dude, you want to do that. Like, I get it, but then when a friend asks to do this thing, or do you have anyone that does this? Or do you know anyone that does this? Or when they're having dinner table conversations, then it's coming out in every single place because you've said the same message. You're clear as shit about what it is that you're trying to accomplish, and everyone knows it. So then when opportunities are then created from that because you're manifesting where you're supposed to be at. So people want to be engaged, or they don't even do it on purpose, and it just happens that way. I believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. There, I think of the term abracadabra, right? Abracadabra is from our childhood, right? It's you're playing magic and you just say these words, abracadabra, but they literally translate in Aramaic to "as I speak, I create."
I love that.
Right? It literally means "as I speak, I create." And what you're talking about is using abracadabra. You are saying it. You're speaking these words, and literally as you're speaking them, you're creating your new reality, little bit by bit. Every time you say them, you're changing your world. And I believe that there's even more, right? It's going into your subconscious, right? And your subconscious runs the show. You don't think about that. People think, I'm in control. I have this conscious mind and that's how I'm living my life. No, your subconscious is truly, truly running the show, driving the ship.
Definitely.
And so you're putting it out there. Your subconscious is hearing it. You're creating, and the universe responds, right? However you want to look at that, right? What you described is a version of universe, right? It's the people around you and the things around you.
Yep.
It responds. And yeah, when you talk about affirmations or intentions or repeating certain things over and over again, if you're consistent, things happen, right? You've seen it. I've definitely seen it in my life. Things start to happen that you're like, that was amazing, right? Was that coincidence? Was it synchronicity? I don't know, but I was saying this, this, and this. And then after a certain amount of time, like that happened.
Right.
And I truly believe that hey, you put this out there and you're consistent with that message, that there's a time gap, but it's going to happen. Right?
Definitely a time gap. Definitely, like, there is no overnight success. The people who have overnight success worked for 10 years grinding their ass off eating rice, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But if you want it that bad that you're willing to take the 10 years to eat rice, and that's figuratively because we all have our own type of shit, then it will happen. Like, it just happens. Like, it sucks to have like blind faith and just go after something. And like you were saying earlier, you also need to be realistic with like real life too, past being blindly faithful. but like somewhere in there is serendipity of finding those and then pushing that forward to like, it will happen. You can make it happen. Like, let's find the steps. Let's create a way. Let's have the target extremely clear. So like there's no confusion on what it is that you're supposed to be doing and what it is that you're supposed to be saying no to. I say all the time to people, like you need to know what you need to say no to, and you can't know what to say no to unless you know what you need to say yes to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's much simpler than we believe it to be, but it's because of all the curveballs that we get. And some of the curveballs there's some people who are able to get past things that I'm not strong enough for. There's unreal curveballs out there. They're not a joke.
Yeah.
But you get past them, you can do it.
Yeah.
For sure. So like, I guess, so now today, working that, creating that, that's where you're at, that's what you're doing, and that's where you're going.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really full steam ahead. I mean, one of the other things that was kind of a cool gift from the universe was the opportunity to work from home, right? So I was in an office. I was working in Portsmouth, which is an hour away from where I live.
Sure.
So I was doing that hour drive there, hour drive back every day. And as a result of this restructuring that they're doing, I had the opportunity to work from home.
Yep.
It was supposed to be starting in like October. And I just, again, being like, well, let me ask, right? Screw it. What's worst could happen? Yeah. I asked back in June. Yeah, I think it was. So, it was a couple of months ago. So, and I said, well, can I start working from home now? Let me at least trial it. And tried it for a little bit and then worked out. And so it was like, okay, fine. So, very quickly, now I'm working from home.
Awesome.
And the great thing about that is I have control over my time. I'm not sitting in an office, basically going through the motions or, keeping up appearances. When I have work things to do, let's see.
It just went, it's okay.
Oh, okay. Yep. When I have tasks that I need to do for work, I do them, right? But then instead of sitting in an office and like, oh, I'll go grab coffee or I'll, go shoot the shit with coworkers or just sit here and look at the internet, right? I mean, there's so much inefficiency in an office setting.
Definitely all the time.
Now I can say, all right, I don't have a meeting for an hour. Like I'm going to hammer out some stuff for my side hustle, so I'm able to kind of meld time that way. Cool. And it's been phenomenal. So where I'm at right now is I'm really in the brand building phase, right? I have a few clients. I'm taking certification classes to get my PCC, the professional coaching certification.
Sure.
So yeah, now I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I'm coaching, I'm comfortable talking about that as what I do. Now how do I point people to something, right? Or how do I, give them a business card or, so that's really where I'm at. It's just, that's, very specific, but building that brand, building that voice, like we talked about earlier, I'm going to be practicing video and getting that out there.
Hell yeah.
Building a website. So just taking all those little action steps to get to the next level.
Cool.
It's phenomenal. It's awesome.
Awesome, man. I mean, that's probably the first time that the episode has basically been someone's story. That's how much of a story you have to tell, man. Like the episode was breaking down that story, but I think that we attacked a bunch of different points to break down and digest a little bit about all those pivot points in your life that made it happen. Mm-hmm. One thing I want to circle back to really quick is because I don't get the opportunity to talk to a ton of veterans on here, and I personally, I just have zero experience with understanding, because there's no way I could, what that viewpoint brings to it. Can you tell my audience that hasn't been in the military, or maybe share with those who have been, what traits about the military or your experience in actual combat, or like everything that you've been through in that situation, what do you think comes out into the life coaching, or what traits do you think you're going to be then bringing out to other people? These things that there's no way to have that without that experience. What parts are you like, I'm keeping this part and I need this part, and it's coming out in things even subliminally? What do you think about that?
Man, that's a great question. And there's there's a lot. I mean, there is a ton that comes out of that. You know, real surface level, there's discipline, right?
100%.
There's being able to put the work in and understanding my capacity for that, right? I mean, the amount of training and the intensity of the training that I went through, and then the intensity of combat and deployments, it'll never be that hard again. Hands down, right? Nothing in my experience, I don't think, will ever be that hard again.
I believe it.
So, you know, working a full-time job, you know, building a business, being, you know, a father and a husband, it's challenging, but I get to go to sleep in a comfortable bed in a warm house, you know, around people I love, and nobody's shooting mortars at me, right?
All that is awesome.
I mean,
I'm a mega fan of all of that.
Yeah. It's pretty awesome. Yeah.
That's pretty much what I say when I thank vets. Is that like, I like whatever it is that I'm doing, I'm like, I love being able to walk out my door after I eat oatmeal and 0 people shoot at me that morning. It is awesome. I literally get in my truck, I drive around, 0 things are out there to blow me up that I'm aware of, at least. And that's pretty dope to be able to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's number one stop when you're thinking of that, is like, I love not being shot at, and thank you for making it so that that's not happening. That's a pretty awesome way to just start out living in the morning, is being alive. That's number one. When, you know, your phone's broken, or you didn't get to go out to dinner with a friend, or you lost, the bigger shit starts setting in. I lost my job. You know, I don't get to live where I want. You're alive. That's super awesome. You're not getting shot at with mortars. That's super great. It's like, okay, right?
Yeah, it's different levels, right? You gotta appreciate
total different levels.
And you know, there, not to say that there's not serious things that happen in life, right? You know, there's a lot of things that are hard, a lot of challenges. But yeah, that's the first thing. The next thing is that the camaraderie that you experience and the shared vision is really powerful, at least in the group that I was in, right? And I think that translates to the civilian world in a number of ways. But, you know, it really speaks to how important it is to find your tribe, to be around people who support you, that have some kind of a shared vision, that aren't going to put a whole bunch of limitations on you based off their own shit, you know? So surrounding yourself with people who are at a similar wavelength, at a similar vibration, in the civilian world is just as important. And part of my mission as a coach is to help people find that purpose and that thing that is going to pull them forward, right? Their big dream, so that they can put their best foot forward and have something to live for, right? And so that kind of, I've lived that experience in the confines of the military and that setting where, you know, we all went to work every day feeling very driven, right? Very like we were tied to something bigger than ourselves, very meaningful. And, you know, whatever your views are on the conflicts or the politics at the time or any of that, you know, we all had different views on that as well. But we all went there for each other. We all went there because we were part of something bigger.
Yep.
And that translates very well, right? And that's a lot of people are lacking that'll completely change your life, having that kind of drive. And then the last thing is that I shouldn't be here, right? In some respects, I should not be here.
Right.
Because I was in a lot of very intense situations, in combat, right? Getting shot at, like getting blown up. And I lost, you know, friends who just happened to be in the wrong spot. That's all it was, right? Like we were all there.
Yeah.
They just happened to be the ones, right? And I'm still here, right? So why am I still here? That is such a gift and such an opportunity that I'm sure as shit not going to squander it.
Right.
So I bring that, to my life, um, every day. That's a huge driver for just
It's real.
me finding and doing the thing. I'm not just going to leave that situation and then just go survive somewhere, right? Just go through the motions. Like it's not an option.
I need to wake up today and I need to eat food because my body will die without it. I need to drink water because my body will die without it. I need to sleep because my body will die without it. You're like, no, I need to wake up and do some shit today.
Yeah. Like, no, I'm going to live to my fullest potential. Like I'm going to figure that out.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some effort to figure it out. And I might go zig and zag a little bit, but I'm going to put the pedal down and I'm going to live this life to the fullest, and
Awesome.
that's that's a big takeaway.
When someone is approaching a life coach, what types of things are making them reach out to a life coach? Like I'm sure that you see people from like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I need someone to help me because I have zero guidance. I have zero anything, zero structure. And you probably also have people that are like, I'm crushing it a little bit. I need someone to like keep me focused, to keep me driven, to keep asking me questions, challenging me.
Yeah.
What are some of the things that people come to you the first contact? They're like, hey Nick, I'm thinking about this because of X. What drives someone to go to a life coach? What is it that starts that conversation? What are some of the things you've heard?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think that there's myriad things, right? Like there's coaches for all aspects of life, and honestly, I think that any coach is a life coach, right? You go to a fitness coach, a nutrition coach, marriage coach, whatever, right? Like it all ends up being life coaching, right?
Sure.
Because everything blends. There are the cutoff is kind of where maybe you should go see a therapist, like because therapy and coaching are not the same, right?
Right.
But coaching is very much future oriented. It's about accelerating and advancing your life and creating a future that may not exist if you didn't work with a life coach or didn't hone in and focus the way that you will with a coach.
Sure.
So I do get all sorts of people that come to me. What I think is most appropriate, at least for spending time with me as a coach, is someone who has achieved, right? They do have a track record of some big wins in their life. They are hard workers and they have a dream, right? They have reached a point where there's almost no turning back, right? They're in a transition point. It might be that they just got laid off and they realize, you know what, I can't do it. I can't go back to the corporate world. I have to do something else.
Right.
They might have just gotten out of the military and realized that, hey, I have a new appreciation for what I'm capable of. Or they might be, an entrepreneur and they're looking to really scale up and go big. Those are the types of people, the ones that are energetic, they're adventurous, they're passionate, but they need some help, right?
Sure.
And everybody needs help. I mean, I think everybody should have a coach, right? I'm probably biased, but when you think about what does a coach do, right? I mean, look at examples that we have in our society that are more common, more well-known as athletic coaches, music coaches. These are the people that have those kind of coaches are at the top of their game, right? Or pretty close. And
they're performing at a high level.
They're performing at a high level. They've put a lot of effort into, they have this passion. They're really good at this thing, but they want to be the best, right? Or they want to be a hell of a lot better. And
right.
The only way to grow is to get a coach, someone who, and this is the same with life coaching. It's really the same type of relationship because it is a relationship first and foremost, right? But it's someone that's going to hold you accountable, someone that's going to challenge you, someone that's going to support you when you need it, right?
Yep.
A good coach listens, reflects back to you, and offers some guidance and has some tools in their toolkit where they can say, all right, let's do this, let's do that, and it's all around this. It's very much focused on the individual, so everyone's experience is going to be a little bit different because that is the subject matter, right? Is the player, right? Not the coach, it's the player. So it's around facing your fears and getting out of your comfort zone and just achieving more. Right. I
I
mean, it's
picture it cause like every like life coach, there's obviously some people that are just doing like monstrous things and they coach, but like any type of life coach with experience like yours or like other I know a good amount of coaches at this point. I think about it like if you think of Belichick, and I'm super biased because I'm a Patriots fan, so I'm sure that I've got some listeners out there that are going to hate on me right away, and that's okay. But Belichick's like an older dude. He's not going to go out there and all of a sudden start crushing football like Brady. You know what I
right.
mean? He can't go out there and do that.
Yeah.
Everyone on the Patriots team can school him at football, like 100%.
Yep.
But not everyone on the football team can school him at coaching. And the reason being is because he's not there to be the best football player. He's there to be the best coach. And so you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to be the best XYZ for whatever profession it is. You're just seeing from a different perspective instead of being inside of it, which me as like an engineer, an audio engineer, I can't mix my own stuff because I
Mm-hmm.
don't see the perspective correctly. So like
Mm-hmm.
I'm a mixing engineer. I just hired a mixing engineer to do my last record because even though I recorded it, I can't mix it because I cannot ever get the quality because I'm just biased to what I like and don't like in my own project, that it won't be the project that it needs to be, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even though I feel professional at that subject, I need to get someone's outside view to check me, to challenge me on things where I'm like, yeah, that's right. And they're like, it's not right. You need to stop doing that. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
need someone to ride my ass too on, I'm a normal person. Everyone is a human being, no matter how many amazing habits you build up, no matter how many amazing routines you build up. We have off days, we have
Yep.
lazy days, we have bad days. And I feel like having a coach in any aspect is always going to be beneficial, even if it's just like a mentor figure that you communicate with to get some of those habits. In any facet that you're doing this, it's always going to be beneficial because you're getting someone to watch you on the field
Yep.
and make suggestions and conversation to give you construct and praise or whatever it is from that time,
Yep.
from the
Yep.
outside. And there's nothing that can replace like outside view on what it is that you're doing when you're playing the game, I feel like.
Yeah. That's it, man. You got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
That's it. That's what I'm doing. I do want to talk about my big dream, right? Which is a little bit different, right? So the big thing that's pulling me forward is I will one day run adventure experiences. Okay, these are like ultimately going to be exclusive, perhaps invite only level adventure retreats or adventure experiences, however you want to call it.
Okay.
And these are going to be intense experiences, right? That will absolutely challenge your comfort zone.
Love it.
And it's going to be geared towards people who are making a difference, who are changing the world, right? And these are people who are hard charging, right? They are successful. But it's gonna give them an experience unlike any other that they've ever had. That's gonna energize them, recharge them, right? Get them to just make that leap to the next level and go out and continue to like amplify the good that they do in the world. And that's really like, that's my ultimate dream, right? If I could be doing that all the time, setting up these adventures, running them, that's it, right? Like I can't picture a more
That sounds
perfect scenario. Yeah. And so
sounds awesome.
the coaching comes into that, right? That'll be infused into it. And I'll probably have a few one-on-one clients at all times, but really that's the ultimate goal. So even as I'm going through my building this coaching practice, that's kind of the theme that's woven into it, right? Is this theme of adventure, of freedom, of connection. You know, because looking back, like you talked about, you know, what can I take from my military experience? I mean, there's not a lot of people that lived what I lived there, right? They've experienced that. I mean, I've flown in Black Hawk helicopters, you know, a few meters off the ground, you know, full speed ahead with open doors, right? Like,
Yeah.
I've jumped out of airplanes multiple times at night, you know, like just
Oh my
crazy,
God.
crazy stuff. You know, fast roped out of helicopters, you know, jumped out of helicopters while they're shooting miniguns overhead, you know, like, just like, you know, there's rockets flying and like, you know,
Oh my God, dude.
the intensity is so incredible. And you know, I'm not saying it would get that intense, but, you know, there is a helicopter in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's stuff that like, I want to share that. I want to share that kind of experience that for me was life-changing, right? I'm a totally different person after experiencing that.
Yep.
And, you know, I'm a big fan of pushing your comfort zone and, you know, having new experiences, bold experiences, right? Skydiving,
Hell yeah.
you know, stuff like that, you know, even rock climbing, that kind of thing, that it just invigorates you, exhilarates you. Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, these type of people that I'm going to invite to this experience, they might be crushing it. They might be doing big things. They might be pulling in, you know, tons of money, all that stuff, but they're not getting the chance to take a step back and just like have this incredible experience. You know, like they're grinding it, right? They got their head down. They're focused on the business. They're focused on all this other stuff. I want to give them the opportunity to just take a deep breath and, like, you know, dunk their head in ice cold water. Like,
Yeah.
hey man, check this out, you know, and I think that I can bring that, right, because of my experiences and because of my passion for helping other people and all that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
that's the dream.
All right, man. Well, that brings me to, I've got 5 questions that I ask everyone. I don't know if you've listened to any of the other episodes.
Yeah, I have, but I don't remember the question. So,
Well, first of all, I always say I'm going to cap this out, which is always controversial because I've heard that people say that that's not a real phrase. But then there was one episode where I brought like conclusive evidence that it's real and it's being
okay.
used by, I will go back, but it's real. Okay. So I say, I'm going to cap this out. Right.
Okay.
And so I go through them, and you don't want to spend too much time thinking about it because you don't want to overthink these answers. You want it to be organic to what you believe on it. So
Okay.
number 1 question is, throughout all that, we just hit huge amounts of Nick Devlin history, right?
Yeah.
What is the worst thing that you did in the process where a lot of people on the show are really optimistic and you're like, that happened for a reason? But what's something where, like, when you're talking to your people that you coach or you're talking to my audience, you're like, that happened and that was a choice that I don't want you to make? What's something that people should not do in their process?
Oh man, in the process of becoming, or just in life in general?
Whatever.
The whole story. Yeah. Yeah. The choice I made that I don't want people to repeat is to just blindly follow the next step.
Okay.
I mean, because it is a choice, right? We all have a choice. And I chose for so long to just follow the same step, you know, and that's a recipe for a mediocre life and regret, ultimately.
You wrote the song. Don't write the song in 120 beats per minute. All my music people will know that. Like, that's like the default tempo for like
Okay.
every song ever. And it's like
Yeah.
the default tempo in any like DAW workstation. It's like 120. You can write an amazing song 120. So,
Yeah.
but
But
that's
yeah, no,
default.
exactly.
Don't
That's
just
it.
do
Yeah.
it because that's the tempo that's already set. Just
Don't just default.
do
Yeah.
what the right thing for you is for that song to be the right piece of art. So
Yeah, absolutely.
awesome. Flip side, now you get to be super pro.
Yeah.
What's the best thing through the process where you're like, damn, this is the best thing ever? I'm so glad I thought about this, that people will be like, I should do that.
Yeah. Be intentional.
Okay.
Just be, yeah. I mean,
They're linked. Your pro and con are the same.
They absolutely are. They absolutely are. That was the best thing was, just get real, listen, be intentional. That changed everything for me.
I think I got it from you, but I want to maybe like this question always, sometimes I get like a different viewpoint in the answer. What is the reason why you are pursuing this with passion? Like what makes you pursue what you're doing right now? Why do you have to do that? Why is it the thing basically?
Yeah. I have to do this because I only have one life and I'm still here. So I need to make the most of that life. And
awesome.
that, related to that is that I look at myself, especially as a father, as a role model, as an example for my kids, and for the world. Right. So it's just, I have to do this to be real, to be me, to be true.
Fair. Okay. So I know that you said you're just starting to put out and work on your website and things like that. But where can some of my listeners follow and keep up with you, on social, website? Like where do people follow this journey that you're after so that they can stay in touch with you?
Yeah. So pretty much the best way to get a hold of me is nickdevlincoach@gmail.com. I'm Nick Devlin, Nick Devlin Coach, NickDevlinCoach.
Okay.
And I'm Nick Devlin Coach on Twitter, YouTube, Insta. I will have nickdevlincoaching.com up at some point in the near future, but awesome. As of now, that's the phase I'm at. So
cool. I asked it in the wrong order, but it doesn't really matter. What's like a book that you would recommend to the audience or anyone that's pursuing a life coach or they're just trying to live with intent? What's a good book for people to read? And it could be, some people aren't huge readers and they give me like sweet ass video content that they like, or podcasts or YouTube. I'm open, man. Like what's a beneficial resource for people to use?
Oh man, I'm a big book collector. I read some of them, but
ask the right guy. The right guy.
Yeah. So I think right now, top of my list is "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. Sincero.
That hasn't been offered on this podcast yet.
Yeah, that's an incredible book. I listened to it on audio, but I actually went and bought the book in hard copy after that. And she's got a whole series of badass books. She's a life coach. She's an author. And it's really relatable, especially for someone who's maybe like, is this kind of BS? Is this fluff?
Yeah.
What is life coaching? She just has a great sense of humor, gets really real, and is super relatable. Just a really enjoyable read.
Cool. Awesome. Well, Nick Devlin, thank you for being on the podcast with us in the Waking Up From Work podcast and capping out episode 26.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dave, for having me on. It's truly a pleasure.
Hell yeah, man. And I will be at another etheric show with you and not know who you are at that point. I'll know this time.
Yeah, now you can spot me in the crowd.
Dude, we'll be like 100. I'll be like, are you still going to those etheric experiences?
Hell yeah.
I'll be there, Nick. Yeah, you got it, man.
Awesome.
All right.